Oh, Sarah, I might be a couple minutes late. So he found a spot, but can you do the intro?
Yep, I'm on it.
Okay, perfect. Okay, bye.
Got it. Bye. Let's see. Morning, everybody. We are just waiting until the noon hour starts. So just hang in there and we'll get started right at noon. In the meantime, if you don't mind dropping your name and your affiliation in the chat, what department or group you're with, just so that we can kind of see who is here. All right, well, it is noon, so we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning, well, it's noon. So good afternoon or at noon, everyone. I'm Dr. Sarah Shelton. I am the lead facilitator for CERTL, and I'm very excited to welcome y'all today to Dr. Laurel Stvan's Faculty Voices panel. She is also a facilitator working with CERTL, focusing on analytics as well. So we're excited to hear from her today and her guests talking about Wikipedia and using it in the classroom. So I will go ahead, Laurel, and well, I will say this: we'll have the panel will go, and then we'll have Q&A at the end. So in the meantime, please utilize the chat. I'll be monitoring it. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them there, and we'll make sure that we get those questions to the panel. And if you need anything else, same thing. I'm happy to help in the chat. So having said that, Laurel, I will turn it over to you and let you take it from there.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sarah. So hello, everybody, and thank you for logging in today. What we have in mind is kind of a joint production of 3 faculty members from UT Arlington who have all had success using Wikipedia editing in their classrooms as an assignment in the classroom, right? And if you're not familiar with this setup with Wikipedia, it's a task that can be used with lots of different disciplines to give your students an experience in doing research, to find sources that support things that they write or translate or add references to from their research. So today we're going to bring perspectives from 3 different departments across campus, as you can see. So I'm Laurel Stvan from the Department of Linguistics and TESOL. I've been using the editing assignment in my courses for a number of years at both the undergraduate and the graduate level for courses in semantics and pragmatics and computational linguistics. And I'm going to start us off today with some introductory material, and I'll be joined by Alicia Rueda-Acedo from Modern Languages, who's going to talk about editing Wikipedia to create pages in Spanish that deal with medical translation. Okay, and then we're going to hear from Christy Spivey, who's been using Wikipedia editing again in a number of classes in economics. Okay. So I'm going to get us going. And again, we will have some time for Q&A because we definitely think this might be new for a lot of people and that you might have questions about how to get rolling. So let's go. All right. There we go. All right. So our plan for today, I'm going to start us off with some tips on getting started either as a Wikipedia editor, if you haven't done that before, and how to hook up with the group called Wiki Education that we've all had support from as we've set up these classes. There have been a really wonderful and free support for these projects. Then we're going to see a case study from Alicia from her Modern Languages course, a case study from Christy going into the details about her economics courses, and then we'll take some questions from all of you guys. Okay? So our goal for today is to have you be starting to think about these three things. One is seeing where to find gaps in your discipline in what's covered on Wikipedia that can be addressed by creating new pages or expanding, really preliminary pages that people have started. Because really, Wikipedia definitely has some gaps in its content, right? But in your field, you and your students know the issues that should be covered more fully and what's missing for you guys, and you can help create that, right? For the second point, we'd like to have you begin thinking about how you could design a subtask using this where students assess the sources for a page as part of developing their skills in analyzing valid sources. So really, this is the same kind of research work that they do in writing a traditional research paper. They have to find sources, decide if they're valid, decide if they're appropriate, and then help use that to support the claims on these pages, right? And then the third point is that we're going to start showing how you can integrate peer reviews in the editing topics that students do to help students develop stronger drafts of their pages as they work together. So this is often done with students pairing up or in group work, and then swapping off the drafts they've written with other students so that they get a lot of review before this is made public. Okay, so I mentioned this group called Wiki Education, or sometimes called Wiki EDU, right? They are a nonprofit group who supports instructors in using Wikipedia in their classes. They do several sorts of programs with scholars, but they also do this one for educators working with classes using Wikipedia. So several things to know about them. First of all, their support is free, so this is lovely. And they're really there specifically to help you set up fitting this into your syllabus, setting up an online dashboard to coordinate the tasks and the trainings that you and your students will go through so that everybody's got resources at their fingertips and that you can track who's doing the work and what projects have what parts. So if you go to this webpage that's listed on the top here in red, you'll find a long page that will give you some really nice background on the work of Wiki Education. And if you scroll down, further down on the page to this green button that is I've pointed out with the arrow that says Teach with Wikipedia, this is where you can get started telling them that you're interested and contacting them about maybe setting this up for your class. So this is a good reference to put aside if you're curious about more of this. But if you've never edited Wikipedia at all, if you've only been a reader of it, like many of us, then another first step is to set up an account with Wikipedia, an editing account. Again, it's free, which is awesome. You'll need to connect it, filling out the information that you see on this page, which is essentially connect it with an email address. They recommend that you use a password that you don't use on another account. Well, yeah. And I will tell you that you'll want to remember which email you're using. So in case you need to reset your password, you'll know how to get back to this page, right? I would also say it's a good idea to set up some kind of an anonymous username rather than your actual name. And I would also recommend using something non-gendered that is for you and your students, just to avoid any people who like to hassle editors online. Does that make sense? So some kind of neutral fun name is going to be your Wikipedia editor name. So next, I think I want to mention why Wikipedia needs your input to become a better encyclopedia, because as I said, it's something we all use, but it definitely has gaps. So everyone relies on Wikipedia, I would say at some point and throughout their day or in their life, but you'll probably already know that not all the topics there have equal coverage or equally good coverage. And so here we are at a Center for Teaching and Learning. You guys are all experts in your discipline, right? And your students are connected to an excellent university library set of resources, right? So this is your chance to make this online resource of Wikipedia a better resource in your discipline, so it has better depth and accurate and current material related to the things that you deal with. So the nice thing is that you don't have to start a page from scratch, right? Because sometimes that's kind of daunting. So let me show you some resources that will maybe be some good starting points. There are a lot of pages that are up on Wikipedia right now that are kind of rudimentary, and they call them stubs, that would really benefit from being built up or being supplemented by citations or having people add sections or add better introductions and things, people who know the field, right? So for every discipline, Wikipedia keeps these lists of stubs. And here I've just linked a few of them that are in the disciplines for we three presenters, but all of your fields are represented in some list of stubs as well, right? So this is a good resource if you're trying to say, what would be some pages that my class might want to develop or build up, right? And then for biographical pages, right? So you go to a page about a particular famous scientist or politician or whatever. There's a great resource from the user group Women in Red, right? They collect lists of what they would suggest are notable women who don't yet have a Wikipedia page, right? And the really cool thing about it is that it's sorted by occupation and country and time period. So if you want to look up earth scientists who need a Wikipedia page, or woodwind players who need a Wikipedia page, or women from Jordan who need a Wikipedia page, this is going to give you a list of possible places to start. And let me just say that the name Women in Red means that if you look up their name on Wikipedia, it's a red dead link because the names for those people do not have a page yet. That it just means people without a page. So we want to turn those red links into actual live pages. Okay, one last thing that I wanted to mention as a resource. This is a free third-party app that essentially has this function. It will browse through all the Wikipedia pages to find claims that are not backed up. So someone's made a statement, but they didn't connect it to any reference. So these are areas where you could try out adding a citation. If you've set up an account and you're feeling brave and you'd like to add something in, the citation hunt tool will do this for you. You scroll through from this page and it'll put up a claim like the one we see here. And if this is a topic you know something about, like if you're an expert in British politics, you may be able to add information from a publication that backs this up. Like you might say, oh, I know exactly what newspaper that was mentioned in, right? Or more likely, if this is not your area at all, then you can just hit the next button and it'll come up to another page. It just keeps going through citation hunt. So here's another one. Maybe you know more about cash registers and you know about retail, and then this would be a place you can add something. And if not, you hit next and so on, right? So essentially, this is a great way for you or your students to practice tracking down relevant sources and adding them into existing pages, right? So just sort of a fun tool to find things that are not fleshed out yet. Okay, I hope what I've done really is sort of whet your appetite about how easy it is to get going and a few places where you can start setting yourself up. But what we're going to do next is go into a little more detail about people who've already worked with this with their class. So I'm going to pass the mic on to Alicia, who will give us details about how she used the Wikipedia editing assignment with her translation students. Okay?
Thank you very much, Laurel. I really appreciate your invitation to present here in this panel, but I want to thank you for introducing me to this wonderful Wikipedia assignment. How it started, I saw a post in a train in Spain about Wikipedia. Oh, Laurel is doing a great thing. And then my kids were talking and I forgot about it. And months later, I remember about Laurel and I say, Laurel, did you ever publish something about Wikipedia that you're doing with the students? And then she introduced me to this wonderful world. She guided me through the process. She put me in contact with Wiki Education Foundation, and I applied to offer a wiki. I say wiki edu all the time because I say it in Spanish, wiki edu, and it has been a wonderful experience. So the title of my presentation is Enhancing Access to Medical Knowledge, Translating Rare Diseases with Free Online Translation Tools in a Wiki Edu or Wiki EDU course. Next slide, please. Okay, so I applied to have my translation in medical settings course as a Wiki Edu course. And I must tell you that this is fantastic. Like, don't be afraid, because you're going to be assigned 2 editors from Wikipedia, and any questions you have or any question your students have. Sorry?
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Any questions that you have or any questions that your students have, they will answer like immediately. And also it is very flexible, because you can have, for example, I started saying, okay, I need 6 weeks for this project, but then I needed 12 weeks to complete the project. So you just change the modules, they guide through all the training modules. It is fantastic. So I decided to translate articles in English about rare diseases that didn't have translation into Spanish. So we could make medical information available to Spanish-speaking communities. And why is this? Because I am a survivor of a rare disease, and when I was diagnosed, I couldn't find any information, not even in English. So imagine when you have this diagnosis and you don't know where to go. You go to Wikipedia. And if you don't have an article in Spanish or in a language of lesser diffusion, then you don't have information. So I also implemented project-based learning pedagogy into this course, and I'm going to show a little bit more of what we did. Next slide, please. So just to give you some background information, almost 4% to 6% of the population, roughly 300 million people in the world have a rare disease, and they don't have information in their language. Here in the US, a rare disease is considered as such when affects fewer than 200,000 people. So that's why I think it is essential to make information about rare diseases available, not only in Spanish, but in many other languages. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm sure you have implemented in your courses project-based learning components. And why I like this in particular is because as translators, we always work in a team. So it's a way to replicate what we do in real world into our classes. It emphasizes collaboration and problem solving, and also enhances practical and professional skills. So I think this is the way to go. How I did it, my students have to create a group, at least of 3 members. One of them was a translator, the other one was a terminologist, and the third one was the project manager. And I'm going to show you now the timeline of the project. Next slide, please. So as I say, first group formation and designate who is the translator, who is the terminologist, who is the project manager. They have to turn in the first draft of the translation, and then another group will review what the first group did. So they became editors and reviewers. So once they have the second version of the translation, they will give it to me, and I will give them feedback back. And that third version of the translation was the one that was uploaded into Wikipedia, and it was published. Next slide, please. So also, it was very interesting because I knew they would be using ChatGPT and DeepL and Google Translate. I said, okay, let's do this from the very beginning. We're going to use these tools, and I'm going to let Wikipedia know that we're going to be using these tools in case we get, red flag. So I asked them to translate with these 3 tools, and then compare the translations and look for the quality of the text. And they were paying attention to accuracy, fluency, consistency, cultural appropriateness, and register. And it was a really wonderful learning experience because they realized that the 3 tools were translating differently, and also that they needed to edit. And that was the whole point of this. You need a human in the loop or help. So just to make a few comments, they decided, and I agree with them, that DeepL is the best tool, followed by ChatGPT, and then Google Translate. But definitely, you still need a human to review all these translations. Next slide, please. These are some statistics of what my students did in medical translation. So they created 9 articles, and they edited 17. And what I really love about these statistics is that they added 295 references that were lacking in Spanish. So I think they did a really good job. Next one, please. So just to inform you about what the students think about this kind of projects, they develop, I distributed a survey, and also I analyzed their reflective essays. So they developed their skills in research, translation, and editing. They collaborated, they peer reviewed, they changed their perception of Wikipedia. Now they trust it. And they felt really good about contributing to a greater course. And here you have the highlights, like Wikipedia is credible because I've been working a lot to publish this article. And they love the project-based component of the course as well. Next one, please. And this is references from scholars who have worked with Wikipedia and translation assignments. They agree, and I agree with them as well, that it is a real world translation project. They empower students to be contributors to public knowledge. It can be replicated in many other different disciplines and in many other languages. And I think it is, and they also believe it is a wonderful experience. Next one. I want to conclude because I talk about what my students thought, but what this collaboration has meant to me. As Wikipedia knew we were using AI tools, they invited me last summer to be part of a focus group because they want to know how artificial intelligence can be incorporated into the Wikipedia assignment. So after this focus group, where we were like 6 professors from many different universities and also many different disciplines, they created 2 new videos. Why is AI text bad for Wikipedia, and how does AI detection work? So now those are available. And also they chose my course that I'm teaching right now, Women in Hispanic Literature, as a pilot course for the new program, Gen AI pilot program. What they're doing is they're analyzing what my students are contributing to the Wikipedia, and also they are distributing surveys to see the use of, again, ChatGPT, Google Translate, and DeepL. And also, I'm very excited because I'm going to be now part of the Wiki Education's 2026 Social Justice and the Humanities Advisory Committee. And I am very excited to contribute to this project that is funded by a 3-year grant from the Mellon Foundation to improve humanities-related content on Wikipedia, with an eye on social justice and obviously translating articles into other languages than English is a social justice aspect. So that's it from me. Thank you so much.
All right, we have some references here. We'll be sharing the slides later for anybody who's wanting to read these in a little more depth. And we are ready to pass the mic to Christy Spivey, who will tell us about how these kinds of issues played out in her economics courses.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christy, and I'm clinical professor in Department of Economics. I first learned about Wiki EDU from UTA Libraries. They had an event some years ago around open educational resources. So I was pretty excited when I learned about it and started using it the following academic year. So next slide, please. So I have used Wiki EDU in quite a few courses, and in my graduate courses, I usually give students the option to work individually or in a pair. And in my undergraduate courses, they usually work together in groups of 2 or 3 people. I see a hand raised. Should we, did you have a burning question?
Yay, Megan, did you want to jump in? Oh, I think she's muted though.
Oh yeah, Nikisha would have to unmute you, or you can type in the chat.
Megan, can you type it in the chat? I'm unable to unmute you right now. I'm so sorry.
Okay. So I have used it in an economic data analysis course, which is in person. I've used it in a graduate human resource economics course, which was online. And I used it in a healthcare in the pandemic course, which is a combination of asynchronous and synchronous online. So I believe it's been successful no matter the modality, and for undergraduates as well as graduate students. Next slide, please. So these are some of the benefits, some of which have already been mentioned that I have noticed and that I have seen students articulate in their feedback. So definitely enhancing digital literacy and critical research skills. And I have them do a literature review as part of this assignment so that it really does improve their research skills. They learn how to write for a public audience, and I think they really appreciate the opportunity to contribute to public knowledge. And I think they feel like, oh, maybe I better do a good job because other people are going to be reading this. Promoting collaboration because they are working together most of the time, and they also have the resources at WikiEDU that they can reach out to as needed. And then, as Alicia mentioned, they really gain a whole new understanding of what Wikipedia is. Most of the time, they're used to hearing, "Oh, never go there for anything credible." But after this, they really appreciate that much or most of what is on Wikipedia is credible. And so this kind of opens their eyes. Next slide, please. So just to give you an overview of my assignment, I asked my students to formulate a research question or identify an area of interest, and it can be anything as long as it's related to the course. So in my economics of health course, they can pick anything that is related at all. And economics of health is a huge field. So there's a large potential number of topics they can look at. And I asked them to identify Wikipedia articles that need improvement. And Laurel gave some resources for that, but also wanted to mention that once you have a WikiEDU account, you can see that they have a tool within WikiEDU, and essentially it's just a search tool. You can type in any topic and up will pop usually many Wikipedia articles, and WikiEDU gives them a grade. So it will tell you whether it needs a little improvement, a lot of improvement, whether it's just a stub. And so it's relatively easy for students to identify an article that needs improvement. So I typically ask them to focus on articles that need a decent amount of improvement as opposed to creating a whole new article. They can choose to create a whole new article if they want to, but most students have just chosen to improve an existing article. And then they conduct a literature review. And I, of course, give them some guidance on how do you actually find academic articles, peer-reviewed articles, using the library's resources. And so once they conduct the literature review, they are in a better position to determine what information is actually missing from the Wikipedia article. So what needs to be added? What do they deem as important to be added to the article? And along the way, they complete WikiEDU trainings and exercises. So this is one thing I really like about WikiEDU, is that there are many trainings for students that helps them along the way, including how to write from a neutral standpoint, how to use Wikipedia, and I think that it really guides them well. Students rarely have a lot of questions. They don't seem like they're confused at all because WikiEDU does a really good job of walking them through the process. And then finally, they get to edit Wikipedia. Next slide, please. So I wanted to give you an example timeline. This is one that I've used in my course. And I also want to emphasize that you have control over the timeline in WikiEDU. So what I mean is you can choose how long is this assignment going to be? Do you want it to be a 6-week assignment, a 10-week assignment, or an entire semester assignment? When you decide to create a course in WikiEDU, you give it a few parameters, including how long you would like the assignment to be, and it will actually auto-generate a timeline for you. And what that means is under each week, it will say, these are the recommended trainings for your students. Here are some exercises they can do. Sometimes it will suggest reflections. And so you can certainly use that auto-generated timeline, but you have full control over it in terms of editing it. So you can move things around very easily if you want to. So as an example, in week 1, I have them do basic training about Wikipedia policies and sandboxes, which is where they are practicing before they upload anything to Wikipedia. And I make sure that everyone has signed up for a Wikipedia account during week 1. Then in week 2, they continue some training, how to evaluate articles and sources and how to actually edit. And then they practice that using a small exercise on evaluating an existing Wikipedia article. Week 3, more training, let's find your article. What do you want to write about? And this is where they use the WikiEDU article finder tool to decide what topic they're interested in. Next slide, please. So then week 4, a little more training about how to add citations. There's a small exercise where they practice making an edit and starting to build a bibliography. And then I have them do a reflection. What is a content gap that is built into WikiEDU? WikiEDU suggested that reflection. And then I have built in the literature review to my timeline. So weeks 5 and 6, I'm making sure that they are searching for relevant articles to make their improvements. And then weeks 7 and 8, there's more training on plagiarism and how to draft as a group if they're working in a group. And they start drafting their Wikipedia contributions. Next slide, please. And then week 9, they're peer reviewing their draft. And again, WikiEDU guides them through how to actually do that peer review. And then week 10, they respond to the peer review and they continue improving their article. And then finally, in weeks 11 and 12, they are moving their work to Wikipedia and refining their contributions. So this is set up as an 11 or 12 week assignment, but again, you have complete flexibility on how long you would like yours to be. Okay, next slide, please. So in terms of how I assess this assignment, I usually make it 15 to 20% of the course grade. And the way I grade it is I have completion grades for the WikiEDU trainings and exercises that are part of my timeline, and usually that's 10 to 15% of the assignment grade. And then I assess the quality of their Wikipedia contributions. So that's usually 70 to 80%. And I give them a rubric for what I will be looking for. Now, WikiEDU does have a rubric, and so you can certainly use the one provided, or of course you can come up with your own. I have taken the one that I got from WikiEDU and made some changes to it. And, for example, I tell my students how many references or sources I expect them to have at a minimum. I tell them, okay, I do have a minimum expected contribution to the article, although quality is definitely weighted heavily compared to quantity. I want to make sure they're, writing more than a few sentences to improve the article. So I have a number of factors that I use in the rubric to grade their actual contributions. And then I have them write a separate reflection, separate from any built-in ones in WikiEDU, which I usually count as 10 to 15% of the grade. So that would be at the end of the assignment. Next slide, please. So these are my contribution statistics. This WikiEDU will give this to you. It will include all of your courses that you have used WikiEDU as part of. So again, you can see that my students have only created 7 articles, but they've edited almost 60 articles. And, they've added 561 references. So again, this will just keep getting larger as I add more courses to WikiEDU. Next slide, please. And so I wanted to share a few reflections. These are from the end of assignment reflections. And this student noted how easy it is to let your pre-existing biases slip into your critiques. And you really need to take a step back and make sure you're writing from a neutral standpoint. And again, the training in WikiEDU really helps them with this. They noted it's very easy to spread a misinformation with simple edits, and they have a newfound respect for those who regularly write for Wikipedia. Next slide, please. And this student really commented about how they're impacting other people. So my contribution may be useful for other people who I don't know, and that really provides them with satisfaction. And they just want to make sure, I think it really makes them feel like they have to be responsible when they're adding this information to Wikipedia. Next slide, please. And then last, I had a student who chose an article about suicide awareness programs. And in the existing article, it stated that these programs tend to have a negative impact on teens as it gives them the idea that suicide is an option. And my student noted that this was based off of a study with a small sample size and did not accurately reflect the findings of the overall literature on suicide awareness programs. So they added information on studies that had different findings. And they noted that there were 9 separate studies done showing that 5 programs had a positive impact on teens, and 2 studies did not show any change in behavior. So they said, I believe that adding to that information gave the reader more accurate information and a more neutral point of view. And so I think this was a really important contribution, because having just the one study there that really did not reflect the findings of the literature overall, was definitely not a good thing. So they expanded that and hopefully give the article a more accurate representation of what was out there in terms of the literature. So that is my last slide. I would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you so much.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, we're available for questions, and I'm not sure the best way. I think Sarah, if you can let us know if there's questions in the chat, and then I'll be happy to answer.
Yeah, we have a couple in the chat already, so let me scroll back up. We're wondering, since students work together, what strategies can you use as the instructor to ensure that everyone contributes meaningfully to the project rather than relying on the work of others? So, the usual, this is a group project. How do we hold them accountable there?
Yeah. Well, in my courses, no matter what group project I'm doing, I do have each student evaluate one another. So I give them a rubric, and that impacts their grade if they score low on the peer evaluations.
I know that Alicia said that she'd also assigned roles for, the teams that they had. And I can just say, aside from that the dashboard actually lets the instructor see exactly how much each person contributes. So whether that's group or individually, you can see that, like, this person added 2 commas, this person added 7 paragraphs, this person added new citations. It's visible to you so that you can also assess whether, how much they contributed, and that can be reflected in the grade. It's actually lovely feedback.
I totally agree with that, and I assign different roles, and they have to reflect on the teamwork. And they are honest. Like if someone didn't do anything, they will tell you. Maybe I was thinking maybe we can share how the Wiki EDU shell looks like, so
Oh,
people can see that.
yeah. Let
I
me
can
see.
I can
If
do
anybody
it.
wants to share, yeah.
Yeah, I can do it. So this is my translation in healthcare settings, and this is exactly what we're talking about. So they have the title of the article that they translated or expanded, and you see the words that they added, the references, how many views the article already had, and going back to the timeline, as I say, I started with 6 weeks and it wasn't enough. So I was able to, actually 11 weeks total. And you have here the modules that the students complete every week. And, it's really, really, really nice. It is very easy. It's very intuitive to create this. And, my staff, Brianda and Helene, they were absolutely amazing. We bother them every other day. I don't know how to do this, that, I don't know. And, they answer to your question in a second. So I truly recommend this to everybody. And as Laurel, Christy said, there's something in your field you can do in Wikipedia. It's amazing.
I was going to say, I also was surprised to find that this is one of the few group projects that they actually enjoyed, because usually when you say, oh, we're going to work in groups, like,
Yes.
oh, they roll their eyes, like,
Yeah.
oh, no, it's going to be unfair. But they actually, because it was new for a lot of people, they had a lot to learn together. They could compare notes on learning the editing interface. They could compare notes on who knew the library sources better and who knew the topic better and who was more technologically inclined. And so they actually loved that they could share that and all get some credit for it. So it was surprising to me. Yeah.
A follow-up just to the idea of having students do evaluations of each other. What the question was, do you ever have students rate or evaluate themselves in that kind of part of the project? Yeah.
Yes, I do. I have them evaluate themselves and the group members using the same rubric.
Gotcha.
And that can be part of the final reflection too, like what really worked well for you, what would you do differently, if you had to start this project over again. So that's very much an inward looking part of the assessment too.
Yeah. I also evaluated the quality of the translation. And if it wasn't good, I told you cannot upload this into the Wikipedia. I'm sorry. So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I have my students do a lot of work on LinkedIn and publishing our articles that way, and that is a struggle, right? Like that part of the public facing adds a nice layer and a nice pressure that they want to do better and they want to have something clean to publish. But I have had a few where I've had to be like, we can't quite publish this yet. Like we're going to have to keep working and stuff like that. So that is an interesting part of these sort of public facing when they're doing writing, having to play that in. There was another question about the pages. Are all pages in Wikipedia able to be edited by editors? Are there pages that are gatekept or that a student would need more permissions to edit?
No, so this is actually builds on that last question. I mean, there are these sandbox pages where just your students are working, but if you get it to the point where it's published, anybody can add to that article from now on. Other editors can make corrections and additions or retract things, or so it's actually really interesting for them to see which pages take off and people add more stuff onto their work, and then they can go back in and add. So they're joining with a larger group than even just their classroom eventually. Yeah.
One more question was beyond like us talking about this today, are y'all aware of UTA having any support or incentive for faculty to incorporate projects like these? Would these be considered part of the OER efforts, do you think? What are your thoughts on that?
Yes. Yes, they are.
So
It is part of OER.
yes,
Yeah.
I have some articles where I've made the case that this is very much an OER production, right? You and the students are working together. I think at various points we've had library support, and we even had a Wikipedia and a residence at the library, but I don't believe that they're currently on staff. But maybe Megan is in the chat. Maybe she can give us a response to that.
When I first used it, I did get a mini grant through OER, through UTA libraries. I don't know. I know that the OER does have certain grants still available, but I don't know what the specific requirements are for the current grants. So let's see, the larger grants are opening in the spring. The key to
Hold
those
on.
is that
I'm unmute. I'm trying to unmute Megan to see if she wants to.
yeah.
Uh-oh. Well, that didn't work.
She's like, yes, please unmute me.
I know. I'm trying.
Oh, wait, can y'all hear me now? Because
Yes,
my
we
mic
can.
went. Oh,
Yes.
yay. Okay.
I'm gonna
Hi,
log
Megan.
out. But thanks, Laurel and everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.
Peggy.
Thank you.
Bye, Peggy.
Thank you.
Yes, Megan, please jump in and let us know what your thoughts are on all of this.
So right now we don't have an avenue for this to be a project, but I love this idea and I'm going to bring it to my director and bring this in because I mean, I push WikiEDU because it is open. You're putting openly licensed stuff out there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing with our grants is we want a published thing out there. And so I can make a case that this is a published thing. So I am going to dig into this for y'all because I think this would be great. This is so much work that you're putting in, so much time and effort to make these changes that you should be incentivized.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
We appreciate that for sure. I'm not seeing any other questions right now. Does anybody else want to drop something in the chat real quick, or if you thought of anything? Laurel, was there something you wanted to add? Before I ask you a question.
I was just seeing that Ray had a question in the chat about the OER grants being focused on replacing textbooks, right? So it's not always the case that a series of Wikipedia pages is going to serve as your class text, although they may supplement that or complement that in some way. So that's probably why it's not currently, the grants are not currently set up for that. Yeah.
Gotcha. I was just curious if y'all have any, I mean, I know you're adding classes and stuff like that. So are there ideas you're working with in the future that you want to just share really quickly? Or, I mean, I don't mean to put you on the spot or anything, but I'm curious because you've got my wheels spinning and my brain thinking. So I was just curious what was in the pipeline for your future here.
Well, right now, and this connect with Laurel mentioned at the very beginning about the Women in Red. I'm teaching a course on Hispanic women writers.
Love it.
And the project, I have graduates and undergrads. So undergrads are translating into English articles about Hispanic women authors that do not have a English translation. And the graduates are creating new content about writers who do not have an article in Spanish, and then they're translating it. So they're doing more research work. And I think that the next project that I'm gonna do is related to legal translation. So I think I'm gonna partner with a nonprofit organization to see what articles are needed by the community in order to know like basic rights that pertain to immigrants. So that's my next thing that I wanna do.
Love it.
I was also going to say that one of the first times I used this with a class, it actually was as an honors contract project. So if you want not the entire class to be doing this, but you have students who need some sort of extra research opportunity, that worked really well. That they enhanced a bunch of semantics pages as part of their honors contract for semantics. I think that worked really well. And also some independent study students where it was a smaller group, right? And then in relation to what Alicia was saying with the grant that she was working on, last spring, I was also connected through WikiEDU with a grant that they were getting through the Broadcom organization, which was specifically focusing on building up biographical pages for STEM folks in science, and I said, well, I'm doing a computational linguistics class, so if we can do women in computational linguistics, I'm on, right? So we ended up creating 6 pages for corpus linguists or computational linguists with them, and so they had to vet them, and they didn't allow them up unless they, met the notability standards. But it was very exciting for the students, and it's a real lack of coverage that's out there. It's very uneven on who gets a page, and it's especially hard for, I think, a lot of women's subjects to meet the notability standards. So it was nice that we could all concentrate on that.
That's so cool.
That's
awesome.
a good idea about the honors project. I had heard that the honors is moving away from those contracts and moving towards course or different sections for different courses, a separate section for the honors students. So if you're asked to participate and offer a separate section for honor students, this might be a good way to do so.
Absolutely. Megan asked, those of y'all using the Wiki EDU, do you also have a required textbook that your students purchase for those classes?
It depends on the class, because this is only a certain percentage of their course grade. And honestly, one problem I found with using this editing project is that it is a bunch of time. And I also want them to be learning whatever, pragmatics or semantic or whatever the content of the course is. So we are still doing some other assignments and that may or may not have a textbook. So sometimes I've had another OER textbook for the content, and sometimes I've had a purchased textbook, but that really kind of varies.
Yeah.
I definitely have my students learning other content, but in most of my courses, I don't use textbooks anymore. So, but that's not because of the Wiki EDU assignment.
Yeah, same for me. It's like I try to do my best not to assign any book that they need to purchase, and then Wikipedia is just like the 20% of the grade. So all the other stuff is different from this assignment. Yeah.
Do y'all feel like it ever, because you're right, like when you're trying to introduce, like, because I teach social media stuff too, so like, but the class isn't social media, right? We're learning English things, but we're using social media, so I have to figure out ways in Canvas to like build which I am incredibly impressed with, like the fact they already have modules for you to like let students learn and stuff like that. Which makes me want to use it all the more, because otherwise you're building your own sort of scaffolding and stuff. Do you ever feel like students have trouble balancing getting that work done and learned with the content, or does it feel crowded sometimes? What are your thoughts on like balancing doing it with the content?
It feels crowded for me sometimes, but I think I have learned to reproportion how much time they're spending on the Wikipedia versus and not try to do that plus a final paper plus a lot of other assignments. So this should be replacing something that they were already doing that involved writing, and that makes it better, saner for me. And it's in small increments, the training, so the students don't usually have a problem with that.
It's very well spread out, all the training modules throughout the weeks. So it is not a lot at the very beginning or at the very end. And also, as Laurel mentioned, when I say, okay, before in this class, we had 3 exams. Now we have 2 on the Wikipedia, and they're happy because they can control the Wikipedia assignment. They cannot control the exam. So,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I also set deadlines along the way for the training, so they're not trying to cram it all in at the end. And so I will create those as Canvas assignments so that they know, oh, this is the due date for this training. So that helps.
And you give completion points for doing it. So, I mean, they're incentivized to actually do it because it's point to prove that and it gives them a skill which they're going to use later. So it's useful.
Megan reminded us that there is the ELF grant, which is the experiential learning grant from the library. I did that a while ago with my social media class. So that would be and she's going to check in to see if it's still going and if this would apply. But that is a good point that like we have, because this is experiential learning, right? Like this is writing for public. I mean, it's everything I aspire to do in all the classes. So I love it. So absolutely thinking about it in those terms, right? Not necessarily the product being OER or something like that. And so having to use those grants, but the activity itself is experiential learning. So looking for those kind of grants, both through UTA and, outside would be definitely an avenue to try for sure. All right, any other questions or our panel, any other last minute sort of things you want to leave us with? I mean,
No,
you've
I'm just
left us with a lot.
excited. I'm just excited to hear from you, Alicia, with the work that you're doing with Wikipedia. So I hope to hear about it in the future.
Likewise, and also while you were speaking, I was like, oh, I need to do that. That's a good point. Because, I just started last semester, so I'm still learning myself. So it was great to listen to you and to Laurel as well.
Yeah, this is so lovely to see how cross-disciplinary this can really be, right? I know that we're going to have a follow-up blog post to this, which is going to list some references, and the WikiEDU people said, please make sure to tell them how to contact us, because they would love to have new instructors who have questions about fitting it into their discipline. So there'll be a follow-up for those of you if you have later questions, you want to look back on these resources.
Yeah, and we will, and Laurel, I just dropped their final link in there, just so they have it for that article. And then, well, like Laurel said, we'll have the follow-up. We have in the chat a link to a feedback survey, if you wouldn't mind doing that quickly. It just helps us, know what's working with these kinds of webinars and how we can better serve y'all in the future and what you got out of it. And we would really appreciate your help with that. And of course, we will have more of these, more faculty voices, and we can't thank y'all enough, because on it, like, I'm like all sorts of excited and like, okay, how can I play with this? Yay. So excellent. Thank y'all so much for your time. Truly.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, pleasure.
Thanks for the
Absolutely.
opportunity.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you, Laurel, for putting this together.
Yes.
My
Well
pleasure.
done.
Yes.
Very well
Good
done.
job,
All
guys.
right. Well, thank y'all. Hope to see you at the next CERTL event. We have one this afternoon in person or on the web about AI. So there's stuff happening all the time. I'll drop a link in the chat to our Pedagogy Next blog, which has at the top pinned our scheduling and what all's happening. So please join us, whether in person or online, because we love conversations like this. So thank y'all so much, and have a good rest of your Tuesday, or no, Wednesday. What day is
Wednesday.
it? I don't know. Where are we? Who are we? Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
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 Bye.